Hello internet, So Broken here, and this is one of my favourite all-time films.
It's me.
The reason I'm showing you this film is because I've stumbled across a game which is kind of based around the whole concept of controlling an inmate who is on death row. They're fighting for the survival, and it's all done for entertainment purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is SCUM. Now, SCUM as a concept I think is absolutely amazing. What I think is even more amazing is the sort of technology that they're putting behind it. For example, in other shooter games, you've got your third-person perspective and a first-person perspective. Well, third-person perspective has quite an advantage over first-person players. Now, I don't know whether you prefer first-person or third-person. That's completely up to you. But in this game, they try to bridge the gap. And the way that they do this is by not rendering anything that you can't see from a first-person perspective. Now, here's some footage that's going to point out the way that they do it, so I'll just let this run.
In SCUM, everything you experience is a projection of what your character experiences in the game. No matter which view you prefer, you will not be able to see things if your character doesn't see them or feel them. This means if you want to see behind the wall, you'll have to take a peek and risk compromising your position. The moment you take a look, your character's awareness will kick in. What will be shown to you on the screen is a result of complex equations that involve your character's awareness and tactic skill versus the enemy's stealth and camouflage skills. The red outlines representing that tactic skill have been activated also. Notice that it works for both the first-person and third-person perspective. Once tactics time expires, you'll lose information about the enemy's position. The only way to get it again is to take another look.
So basically what this means is you can't see people around cover that you couldn't see unless you were looking at them directly, which I think is a really, really good feature. Now, you may have seen the red outline with the tactics skill. This looks a lot like a wall hack. Honestly, I wasn't a fan until I saw the next Q&A session that the developers did, and they've actually improved it massively. So here's another clip with what they've done.
So let's talk about the tactics skill, finally. So right now, you have at least some general idea what variables are taken into consideration when tactics are being calculated. There's no way tactics will highlight every single target on the screen, and in most cases it will be effective only if you can focus directly on the target. Time of tactics skill is significantly reduced compared to what you've seen in the last video, which was more of an example than something that will or can be used in the game. Furthermore, to keep tactics working, you'll have to follow your target all the time, meaning that you probably won't be able to focus on anything else. The moment you lose track of your target, tactics will be turned off. Also, we've replaced the infamous outline with something more like a fading blob contour. That fits much better for this purpose. If you've seen the movie Gamer, the players take full control of the human being in full-scale combat. In SCUM, it's similar. You, as a player, live in symbiosis with the host, your prisoner. Instead of having an avatar like in other games, you're actually controlling a living person. It's all part of the show. The most important thing to remember is, no matter the camera position, we don't render anything that your characters don't detect.
Now, the last line was what really got me excited about the game. I'm sick and tired of being laid in a field, and for whoever's shooting at me, that field not rendering so they can see me clear as day and I can't see anything because I've got some wheat in front of me or some grass in front of me. Now, as you'll see in the next clip, this game does this amazingly. The game only renders what you can physically see. So I'm going to take a leap because I've not said this directly, but if you're in a position where you're in camouflage, you're wearing the right clothing, and you wouldn't be able to see you if someone had the best graphic settings, even if they turned it down, off or low, it wouldn't render you. Now, I think that is amazing. That is one way to stop this whole turn my settings down so I get an advantage. This is literally the way forward when it comes to this sort of balancing. I honestly can't tell you how excited I am about this feature. I think this is going to create such balance within these open world games, and it's going to set this game aside from all the others.
3 soldiers are approaching him over the hill. The left one, called Huey, is crawling through dense vegetation. The middle one, Dewey, is crouching his way towards the larger bush, and the right one is simply walking straight in the open like John Wayne in Sands of Iwo Jima. Let's address him as Louie. Notice that from the Donald's perspective, he only sees Louie. Dewey is well hidden in the bush, while Huey can't be seen because he's well camouflaged. On far distances, the game engine doesn't render foliage, yet still, Huey is invisible until he decides to blow his cover simply by changing his stance. At that moment, his camouflage has been terminated and he becomes visible. The camouflage skill can only be activated in dense foliage when your character is prone and out of plain sight. Everything you just saw is still in development, but in short, these were the basics of scat skills. Thank you for watching, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and our development blog at www.scumgame.com. By the way, did you notice all 7 people in this scene? No? Congratulations! You just got wasted. Get good, scrub.
So the core mechanics of the game revolve around a skill system. They've released a little video which has a small little glimpse of the skill system, but there isn't all that much information to go on other than they have categories of strength, constitution, dexterity, and intelligence. These categories all relate to abilities and skills, and depending on what you want to do, depends on what level of that skill you need. So for example, with the strength skill, this refers to the performance abilities that require a certain amount of strength. So things like how much you can carry without being slowed down, think being over encumbered in Fallout or Skyrim. It also defines how much damage you will inflict on your opponent during a melee combat. And what I thought was really interesting is that being stronger means that you burn more calories on a daily basis, which means you have to eat more food, otherwise you will start losing your strength skill. So you may start out as the most muscular individual, you're super strong, you can punch people really hard, but if you don't eat, you lose the strength gradually. Within each attribute, you also have skills, and each skill has 5 levels, from no skill through basic, medium, advanced, and advanced plus. Also, the attribute level will determine how far you can push that skill level. So if you've only got 3 in your strength, for example, then you can only push to a medium skill. And if you've got 5 in your strength, then you can do an advanced plus. And these are always changing, so if you are losing your strength by not eating enough calories, then your skill will go from advanced plus down to advanced, down to medium, until you start building your strength back up. Now this for me is amazing. Again, I know I say amazing a lot in this video, but having to constantly keep on top of your skills, I think is brilliant. If I want to be the strongest guy out there, if I want to make an absolute tank of a build, one of the things I have to focus on is eating. How good is that? I'm assuming, because there's been nothing said about that, if I wanted to make the person who can run for miles and miles and miles, if I decide to not run for a week in the game, literally not press the sprint button, when it comes to actually trying to run, my skill will have diminished so much that I can only run a short distance. This means that you have to focus on a particular playstyle all the time, and by grinding and grinding and grinding, you're going to get so far, but unless you keep grinding in specific areas, which you're going to use from time to time, not all the time, then it means you're still going to lose those skills and not be as at an advantage as you would have been if you'd have grinded. This kind of makes new players to the game not have such a humongous skill gap. Now there's so much more content that has already been announced by the developers. I don't have the time in this video to cover it, so there will be a follow-up video from this. If you've got any questions about anything that I've said, if you think that I'm wrong with any of this speculation, let me know in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.